What's up, everyone? Welcome to the seventh episode of the Parade Planners podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the last couple games, the Montreal game, the two Flames games, which were incredibly boring, but they had a good ending. We'll get into that too. Talk about some injury bugs, and we got some fun stuff coming up at the end. So, guys, we'll start off with that Montreal game. How'd you guys feel watching that? I missed the whole game, so I probably won't have too much to talk about it. But how'd you guys feel about that game?
I felt that it went pretty well. Thinking that we had 3 games in 4 nights. It was it was a good game that we played. Pressured them hard. Didn't let we stuck to our game. That's what the main difference was. Didn't let guy like Josh Anderson get into like Muzzin's face or anything. Even though at the end of the game he tried, but he fell, which is pretty funny to me. Yeah, just stick to our game and stuff like that. So I felt, especially we'll get to playing the game, but we stuck to our game. We stuck to our game. Our strengths there too.
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch the game, but looking at the stat sheet, Matthews piled up 4 points. So it's nice to see him, catching up to McDavid and Draisaitl in points.
Oh, that game was really good because it was like a back and forth battle between Toronto and Montreal, which is always exciting to watch. And overall, it was a very great game to watch. And obviously Matthews, I think that was his last game where the streak stopped. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, overall it was a great game. And then I think Muzzin I think Muzzin got injured that game. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, like, again, I didn't catch the game, but one thing that's just funny to think about is I wonder if Montreal won that game, would Claude Julien get fired? Because, like, yeah, he got fired after they lost to Ottawa or whatever, but losing to the Leafs there was part of that losing streak that happened. So, like, it's just crazy to think about that. If Montreal actually won that game against the Leafs, Claude Julien might still be the coach. But let's talk about Claude Julien for a second. What a shit show that's going on in Montreal, guys. Like, what the hell is going on with that team? Like, they go from a 24th place team, they win like a fluky bubble round in the play-in round, and then all of a sudden they go out and spend like $100 million or some shit in the off season and think they're a contender. And when they realize that they aren't a contender, which we all know they're not a contender, I think they are a good team. I think they should make the playoffs, but they're not as good as they seem to be. And now that they're not playing the way they expected to play and they're playing to the level they should, they fire their coach. Like, what the hell is going on over there?
Yeah, they were just, I think the expectations were just unreasonably high coming into the season. Like, they didn't really have, like, they added Anderson into Foley, but they lost Domi as well in the trade there. And they added Allen. But I mean, those are good changes. They're a good step forward, but that's not the difference between a 24th place team and like a top 10 team in the league. I think like right now where they are in the standings is pretty much exactly where I thought they would be coming into the season, like in contention for a spot. They have a chance to make it. They probably will make the playoffs as like maybe the fourth team or something like that, but they're not going to be kind of like pushing the Leafs out of first place or maybe Edmonton out of first place like everybody was talking about at the beginning of the season. Like that hype in the first few weeks was pretty crazy in my opinion. And now we can see that that's probably true.
Yeah, I remember Chris Johnson doing that. The juggernauts of the north, but that came crashing down back to earth. Um, I thought they got to a great start with Foley being like a league leader in goals, him just doing his former team in the Vancouver Canucks. Let's just talk about that because the I think they versed the Canucks and they looked really well, and the Canucks were just struggling at that point, and people are like, oh, they're so good, look at them. But yeah, they're only versing one team. They're only versing one team for the 3 straight games and being like the juggernauts. That's not a comparison. It's just dumb to think that they're juggernauts because they just versus Vancouver. Um, yeah. Also, like they don't have a game breaking talent. Suzuki's gonna be that one day for them. Maybe Kakanemi too, but as of now, they don't have that game breaking talent that needs to like get them over the edge, basically, for what they have right now. Yeah, but adding Anderson, they added toughness. Adding Edmondson, they added good depth to the back end. Corey Perry, good depth. But yeah, they're lacking that game breaking talent. And what I felt like I listened to during a podcast, they were saying that remember when Julian got like he had to leave in the bubble? That's when they were playing their best, and they felt like um Julian was Julian wasn't part of the solution. Like like they played well without him basically. I felt like that was kind of where they were leaning towards that, like his system wasn't working, and also like when they exited I mean, like yeah, the system took over basically. Yeah, that's what I'll have to say.
Yeah, looking at the team, like there's nothing that shouts like true contender when you look at their lineup. Because in the NHL, like even though it's like a team game, you still have to rely on your superstar players to carry you all the way. And I don't think like when was the last a team built like the Habs ever made it to the finals, right?
I mean,
Even like
you could argue St. Louis maybe because they don't have like
yeah,
a
but
true star, but
St. Louis
they
had a
still have
lot of
better
good pieces.
players than Montreal. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like if you look at the Montreal center depth, like Suzuki's a great player and he's gonna be even better in the future. But like when you have Dano, Suzuki, Kotkaniemi as your centers right now, like there's no way you can be considered as a true contender. And that's my opinion. But like you need a superstar to win in this league, or at least something close to it.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like none of those guys are top 15 centers, in my opinion. They have the maybe potential to get there eventually, but they're not right now. Um, and I think that like for St. Louis, like Ryan O'Reilly was that good in their cup winning year, and they had other guys like Pietrangelo and stuff that like maybe they're not like the top, but they are still elite in their positions.
Like I guess
Yeah,
technically
man.
Carey Price is supposed to be that like elite player for them, but like
Supposed
he's
to be
not
is the key
anymore.
word there.
Yeah, like he's not anymore. He like even like considering for like Team Canada in the next year, I don't even know if I want him to start for Team Canada. Like, of course he should be in the conversation given his history, but like right now, Carey Price is not playing it like it. And I wanted to pull up this one stat. I saw it on like one of the broadcasts, and then I just looked it up now again as well. Carey Price has had like the current coach Dominique Ducharme or whatever French name that is. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the current coach right now is Carey Price's 10th coach. Like, and he's had like pretty much zero success. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't think Carey Price can win a championship. Like, the thing is, like, there's too much. One, there's too much salary on him. Two, there's too much pressure on him too, right? Because like yeah, like you look at Frederick Anderson in Toronto, like we want him to be a good goalie. We want him to steal like the odd game here and there, of course, right? Like that's what any team expects out of their goalie. But when you're looking at a team like Montreal, the expectations for Carey Price are way higher. Carey Price is their number one player. Carey Price should be stealing every single game. With a salary like that and with the history that he has, there's way more pressure. And I think he's a big reason that it's going to be so hard for them to win.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there. Like when you're paying a player over $10 million, you look to them to be the difference maker in games. So like in Toronto, we look at Tavares and Matthews and Marner when we're down in a game or when we need a win. Like we're looking at them, waiting for them to do something to make a difference. And in Montreal, if they're going to pay Price that much money, then he needs to be able to fill that role for them. He needs to be able to steal games like probably once every 3, 4, 5 games. He needs to be able to keep them in games when they have no business being in them. So I mean, I don't think it's necessarily his fault. Like he was that good in his prime, and he had a lot of great seasons where Montreal's like the rest of the team just wasn't up to speed to be able to pull through and help him win. Um, and I mean, now that the team is a little bit better, he's not really in his prime anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Also, dating back to the previous years, he hasn't had the support that he needed before when he was in his prime. And now that he had that so-called support, he's struggling. Like he has a defense, but he's struggling, right? Um, when Claude Union got fired, I remember watching a highlight where where Brady Kachuk scored a one-handed, like he just sweeped it to Price's leg. I'm like, that's not K Price from before. And I think his save percentage right now is at .893, which is not good. But the league average at .910 or 905. It's still below league average, which is not good for like a goalie paying $10.5 million.
Man, like the crazy thing to me is like they're expecting this team now to be even better than the team from like the early to mid 2010s. Like you remember the team with like Pacioretty, Plekanec, Gallagher, Desjardins, like PK Subban. You had Petrie on that team. They had that other, what was that
Yeah,
Russian's
like
name?
Norris winning PK
Markov.
Subban.
Yeah, they had Markov on that
Like
team
they
too. I
don't
remember
have any
Markov was a
defenseman
beast.
that's going to be in the Norris conversation.
That's what I'm saying. Like that. Well, I mean, Petrie's pretty good. I'm not just saying that because he's on my fantasy team, but he's
That's true.
playing
He
pretty
is
good.
having a really good season. But I mean,
But yeah,
usually
like
or
I know
like
what
in
you
his
mean. Yeah,
normal average years, he's not up there.
that's what I mean. And that team they had before was so good, and they also couldn't get it done with that team. And all of a sudden, they're expecting this team full of freaking Josh Anderson and like Philip Deneau to carry them to the Stanley Cup. Like, get out of here, man. And then another thing
Yeah.
is, how can they expect to win if they are only allowed to hire French coaches? Like I swear, there's like three French coaches in the whole league. They've hired, what's his face, Alain Vigneault and Claude Julien twice. They've had the two of them in the early 2000s, and now they hired them again, and they both failed again. Like, what's going on over there, man?
Yeah, man. I think they gotta get rid of that French rule. I think you're talking about Michel Therrien. I think that video was with some. I think it was Vancouver. Michel Therrien was with was with Montreal back in those days. He's the one who started beef with
No,
PK Subban, I
Alain
think.
Vigneault did coach for Montreal, but I think I'm looking at it right now. It was like late 90s, early 2000s, but he didn't. He only coached
Oh,
once.
okay, okay. Yeah, I think yeah, I never knew that, but I think Michel Therrien was the coach when they went to the conference final. Price got injured because Chris Kreider accidentally fell into him. But yeah, I think they gotta get rid of the French rule. It's just stupid because you can hire a good coach. Who you gonna hire? Bob Gainey? I don't know what that is, but that's the name that's been popping up on the coaching search. Yeah, they gotta get rid of the French rule. That's all I gotta say. Cause you have Jared Golan, you have Bruce Boudreaux out there. That those are the top two coaches out there right now. So they
Yeah,
gotta
like
get rid
even
of the
Harmon
French
said the
rule.
other day, like Gerard Gallant, like he's out there right now without a job. He's a terrific coach. Like all of a sudden, like literally Harmon mentioned that, and I'm like, holy shit! Like if they brought him in, he could do wonders with that team. Considering like how like I don't want to say similar, but like how lacking of a star the team is in the same way that Vegas was with Gerard Gallant, and he had so much success. Like he would be perfect for a team like Montreal to take these guys and really make them produce to the best of their capabilities. But no, they can't have him because he does not speak French.
Guys,
The one
guys,
thing I
guys.
will
So
say
imagine.
about Montreal is like they are only going to get better from here. Like they have these good young players right now. They have good prospects coming up, like Caulfield and Paling and stuff like that, guys with good potential. So they do have, they do have a bright future. They do have the potential to maybe win or contend at least in the next kind of like maybe 4 or 5 years. But I think they just really tried to like rush things right now because they know that Carey Price is getting older. And I think they just had like way too high expectations coming into the season, given what they were. They won that one round against a Pittsburgh team that looked like a shadow of themselves, and they thought like, wow, we can do this. Like we're a top 10 team in the league now.
Yeah, and the pressure is
Guys,
on because like
that's
Shea Weber is
that's
35, Petrie's 33, Carey
Right.
Price is 33. Like the pressure is on because like if you don't win now, when are you gonna win without a starting
Exactly, yeah.
goalie?
And I mean, they like I said, they do have good players coming up, but they don't have a Carey Price or a Shea Weber coming up. So, I
Exactly.
mean, if you
Yeah.
are going to try and win with these guys, then to your point, like you do have to kind of try now. It's just they're not there, and I think it's pretty dumb that like after all these years of patience and like accumulating draft picks and like slowly rebuilding, they just decided to like try and finish it in one season when it clearly wasn't anywhere near finished.
I feel like because of North Division too, I felt like they could. I felt like they thought they could take advantage of the weak, so called weak North Division. Um, they like might as well just take a chance right now because we're gonna have a weaker division than we had prior. Because they have us. That means there's the Leafs. They have the Lightning. There's the Bruins. Yeah, they probably get a wild card spot, but I don't see them leapfrogging Florida either. Who's on a hot streak to begin the season. So they felt like they just gotta go for it now because Price might not be who he is next year or even 2 years from now. When the team actually starts to get good, when Suzuki comes into his prime, Kotkaniemi comes into his prime, even Weber getting old, Petrie getting old. But yeah, that's about it. And imagine
That's
this.
the
Imagine imagine if they get rid of that French and they hire Mike Babcock.
That's the other thing I find funny though is like coming into this season, everybody was talking about how like the North Division was so even and like all the teams are going to be neck and neck and like even the journalists and analysts were like, oh, I can't really pick a team that's going to win this for sure. Like it could be anybody's division, and then the Leafs come in and start like trouncing the rest of the division, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, this is the weakest division in the league, and like the Leafs have it easy, and if they were in their other division, they wouldn't be doing so well. I just thought that was funny. Coming in, everybody was like super even, super tight, and then the Leafs show that they're definitely the best team, and the narrative changes.
One more thing, I wanted to go back to the goalie thing. I know we know this is true, but I gotta mention it anyways. Can't pay a goalie $10 million, man. Like one, like it's like okay, like we paid John Tavares 11 million, right? Like let's say he even like by the end of his contract he's down to like 60, 65 points. At least the cap will move up, right? Like we're gonna have a bigger cap by the time John Tavares' contract's like in the final 2 years. Two, he's still going to be producing and still going to be contributing to the team. Three, he's not going to be completely useless, right? Like when we look at a goalie, right? Like let's look at Carey Price. Like I don't know how long his contract's left, but let's say in like 2 or 3 years from now, if he's still on this current contract and he's completely washed, he can't put above a 880. He's useless. That contract's gone. He cannot contribute to the team, right? Versus if you pay a forward or defenseman that money, they will still be able to play for you unless their name is Jeff Skinner, but we'll get to that later. But like John Tavares in like 3, 4 years will still be able to play. Look at Florida. Like, I was just looking at the stats right now while you guys were talking. Sergei Bobrovsky, how much is he making? Like 9, 10, 11 million or some shit. I don't know, but he's played 9 games. Yeah, he's won most of them, but he has a 3.05 goals against and an 897 save percentage on like a top five team currently in the NHL versus his quote unquote backup. What's this guy's name? Chris Dreiger or something like that. Like I haven't even heard of him before this year. He played last year and this year. Last year he played 12 games. He was 7-2-1, 938 save percentage, 2.05 goals against. This year he's played 10 games. That's more games than Sergei Bobrovsky. He's 7-2-1 in those 10 games. 928 save percentage, 2.18 goals against average. He's outplaying Sergei Bobrovsky. What are you going to do with the money that you just paid Sergei Bobrovsky now? This guy's emerging as your number one goaltender. I know like Florida also has that other what's his name, Spencer Knight or something like that. These Florida has Chris Dreiger. They got Spencer Knight. What are they gonna do with the money they paid to Sergei Bobrovsky? You can't pay a goalie that much money, man. I don't care how good they were. I don't care if they just won a Vezina. You don't pay them that money because goalies are voodoo. They can get washed any season. Like you cannot predict this shit. And like we are seeing two classic cases, Carey Price and now Sergei Bobrovsky, demonstrate why that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And like you said, if you're paying a forward or a defenseman that much money, I like usually the aging curve for a player like that is a bit more graceful than it is for a goalie, but then also like you can shelter their minutes, you can just play them less minutes. But for a goalie, if they suck, if they're not playing well, and you put them in, you're essentially throwing a game away. So you can't really like you can maybe reduce their workload for a little bit as they start to get older, but there comes a certain point where they, like you said, are essentially useless to the team. And if it's a defenseman or a forward, like you have a little bit more flexibility there. You can maybe put them on a stronger line to help them out a little bit, move them to a wing if they're a center to give them kind of less defensive responsibility or whatever. But I think that's a good point. Is like there's really like no reason to ever be paying a goalie that much money.
Well, yeah, like I'm hoping the Leafs learn from this. Like Anderson's not going to make 10 million, but at the same time, they should not be paying him more than they need to. Considering, especially like look at last off season, with like how much Leonard and Markstrom. Like I know Holtby's not as good, but like how much these guys made in the off season. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry for the rant. Let's move on now. Enough of Montreal. This is a Leafs podcast, so fuck the Habs first of all. But yeah, um, Leafs and Flames, man, that was quite the series. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I know a lot of people were upset that the Leafs got shut out in the first game and even for most of the second game. But like, to be honest, they just weren't getting lucky bounces. I know I told you guys this in like our group chat and stuff, but like what I love and like I know we gotta go through like the reason to plan the parade, but I'll give my reason right now. My reason to plan the parade is despite losing quote unquote badly to the Flames and almost getting shut out again in the second game, they still had countless numbers of scoring chances. They were still playing good. They were still getting their chances. They were scoring. I know the passing was a little bit off. Like I felt like the puck was bobbling a lot. Like there weren't a lot of clean passes. The power play. Like the one thing with the power play that bothered me was not like the fact that they couldn't score and stuff. Like yeah, we had like Riley taking shots for some reason on a 5-on-3, but it just felt to me that they couldn't connect on passes. It seemed like the puck would bobble. Matthews would get a pass and like he wouldn't be able to control the pass. Like it was just bad puck luck. And what I'm happy is despite bad puck luck and despite getting shut out for like what 5 periods, they played amazing still. They kept fighting. They kept fighting. They kept going for their chances. They didn't give up. And it paid off in that second game when they got that dirty goal with that beautiful like mosaic overhead picture, and then Nylander had to ice it off in overtime. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the game, and I already gave you my reason to plan the parade, so you guys can give yours while you give me your thoughts on the Flames.
Yeah, you summed it up pretty well. I mean, it was goaltending and it was just like not getting those lucky bounces. Dave Rittich decided he was going to play well for a couple of games, and then last night versus Ottawa, he went back to his normal self, letting in a bunch of goals, including one from like center ice, basically. So, I mean, sometimes it happens. It's kind of what happened to us against Columbus in the play-in round last summer too. Like we just hit a hot goalie and weren't getting our bounces and stuff like that. So that stuff will happen, but I think you're right. Like, it's good that we were like keeping trying. We were still getting shots on net. We were still trying to create chances, and eventually, like with the offensive talent that we have, eventually we are going to break through. It's just a matter of like being patient enough and having them still kind of like work hard enough to make that happen. So, yeah, I was glad to come out with the win in the second game. My planned parade reason would probably be Willie getting 2 goals at the end there. Um, I think that like he's a huge X factor for this team. Like when he's on and he's playing well and he's scoring and stuff like that adds a whole nother dimension to the team and to the offensive ability outside of just Matthews and Marner. And it makes our second line way more dangerous. It makes our second power play way more dangerous. So I think like if we're gonna be looking to make like a deep run in the playoffs, then he's gonna be a guy that's gonna have to step up and do more things like he did at the end of that Flames game.
Yeah, secondary scoring is what we need mostly because we know our stars can produce, but it's just secondary scoring that needs to step up. My reason to plan the parade is because just sticking with the game, staying patient. I remember last year's team when we couldn't score, they would um they would crumble and they wouldn't stick to their own game. Uh, Now I think with the veteran leadership they brought in with Bogosian, Thornton, and Simmons, I feel like they matured more and they have yeah they practice patience and sticking to the game especially. That's what my reason to plan the parade is.
Yeah, and like I think the biggest change I've seen this year is 100% like the defense. Uh, in the last two games against Calgary, even though we weren't getting our goals, like we were still playing sound defensively, and like we didn't have any collapses or breakdowns in our own zone. So like that's my reason to plan the parade is because so far this season we've been pretty good defensively. I pulled up the stats and like this year we are sixth. We have the sixth least amount of goals scored per 60 at even strength, and that's like right between the Islanders and Bruins. But like if you go past, like if you go last year and the year before that, we were like 22nd in 2019, 2020, and then we were 21st in 2018, 2019. So like this is the first season where uh, we've been top 10 in goals against allowed, and like some may say that we're in the North Division and like we have it easy, but like so does the rest of the teams in the division. Like Edmonton has it easy, Calgary has it easy, but we're the only team that stepped up.
Yeah, sorry, I do want to make a point on that. Uh, it's not easy to defend the North of it. You got McDavid, you got Drysdale, you got Pedersen, you got Goudreau, you got Monahan, you got Shifley, you got Wheeler. There's a lot of offensive talent out there, just maintaining them, right? So why don't we see Winnipeg in the top 10 for goals again? Why don't we see Oilers in the goals again? Why don't we see Flames? It's just an excuse to say the Leafs defense still sucks, but we're top 10 in goals again, which is pretty good.
Um, my reason to plan the parade, you guys already mentioned it, but secondary scoring and Nylander is a big part of that unit. I feel like, cause I don't know if you would include him in the first unit with Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. So I feel like Nylander was a big factor, and also Riley was playing very, very well. I know Jaskin mentioned, oh, Riley's having issues and stuff, and he's not playing it as well. But Riley made some good defensive plays, and he was trying to create offense for the power play, and just like overall, he was just like he was like noticeable on the ice for like a good reason. So I feel like if you have Riley playing at the best of his capabilities, and you got like Nylander and you got like more secondary scoring options, I feel like uh that's a reason to plan the parade.
Yeah, man, I agree with Riley too. Like, especially in like the last game, the latest game against Calgary, he looked pretty good defensively. Um, Overall though, like I agree with Jiskaran that like he isn't the best defensively. He's more of an offensive defenseman, but that's what Brody's there for, right? Like Brody is really helping him out defensively, so that's good. I want to talk more about Nylander, man. Like he is so important to this team. Um, and like one reason I feel like a lot of people were shitting on him is that like before last game, his numbers did not look terrific, right? Like he wasn't putting up the points. More importantly, the goals he was from last year where he was a like what like a I think yeah he was a 30 goal scorer last year, right? So like that's a lot of the reason people are mad at him, and I don't think that's like fair because there's a couple of reasons, right? Like one is like he has way less ice time. Like it's almost like what it was, yeah, like 16 minutes now a game versus like last year we would probably be getting like 18, 19, sometimes 20 minutes a game. So like one, his deployment is a lot less than before. So of course like a whole like two less minutes of ice time is going to result in less points over the course of the whole season, right? And then another thing is like I noticed this like from watching the games, he does not look like he's shooting. Like I don't know if it's just me, but he's not shooting the puck. And I actually went and checked the stats. So last year when he put up his 31 goals, right? His shooting percentage was 15.7. This year he has 7 goals. His shooting percentage is 16.3, right? Like shooting percentage is fine, but when you go to shots per game, last year he was putting up almost 3 shots per game. This year he's putting at like just over 2 shots a game. So like him having less ice time and him having like less shots per game is obviously going to result in him having less offense, right? Like, I do think he should be shooting more. Like, he should be, if he's not getting his full time, of course, he's not going to hit that 3 shots a game, but I think he can bump that number up even to like 2.5 shots a game, and that should result in a couple, like, and then like at least a handful more goals. But, like, the main reason I'm trying to say here is like, he is very important to this team. Like, you go back and you look at like Chicago's dynasty, they don't play the same, but William Nylander really reminds me of how Patrick Sharp was to the Chicago Blackhawks, right? Like the Chicago Blackhawks had what? They had their like Taves, Kane, and Hossa, right? Like those were the big three offensive threats, and that's like us with like Taves and Kane being your our Matthews and Marner. Uh, Matthews better than Taves, but whatever. And then like Hossa was like that veteran who was like a star on another team, and he came in the I don't know if he came through a trade or in the off season, but either way, he came as a veteran to the Chicago Blackhawks and really helped them with that veteran all star presence. Same thing Tavares did. And then they had Patrick Sharp. Patrick Sharp was so important as secondary scoring for the Chicago Blackhawks. Like even in the playoffs and stuff, he would come up with goals when like Patrick Kane and Taves couldn't, right? And Nylander has that same role for the Leafs. So I think like a lot of the media and stuff that shits on Nylander needs to shut the fuck up because you don't want to drive a player like William Nylander out of this town. He's very important to the team. You take Nylander out of the lineup, what does the lineup look like? It looks empty without William Nylander. So yeah, like he's so important to this team.
Yeah, even for myself, I was shitting on him. He proved me wrong. The only reason why I was shitting on him is because he looked lazy. I misinterpreted that because I was watching the game. It looked like he wasn't digging in the corners. Like I see Matthews and Martin and like right for the puck on the power play. He just standing there, but that was just me on one instance being mad because he couldn't score. Um, Also like yeah, he I think he's trying to like rejuvenate his game to what Keith likes more to it for than being able to like snipe the puck or anything. Um, yeah, that's why I think he's trying to switch him over to be more of a two-way forward instead of more of a sniper playmaker. Which I think would be good for his longevity of his career. I don't want him to turn up like Thomas Vanegas or like Jeff Skinner or someone like that where they're just one dimensional. I feel like he could provide a lot more with his like even Justin Bourne wrote an article where he was saying that his elite stick lifting, like I know it's not a thing, but he stick lifts so quickly that he can turn the puck around, turn the puck, make the other team turn the puck over, and just go back the other as fast as possible, right? So I feel like he's doing that. He does that really well, and that goes like undervalued in this game a lot.
Yeah, I agree with Jasker on there. That what Keith's doing right now is really good for Nylander's, like for his career. Because one player that like people compare him to, like back in the day, is like Alexander Semin, right? He was like the secondary scoring for Washington back then, or like the third scoring threat. But he was always considered like a one-dimensional player, lazy on defense, right? Everything that the sports media say about Nylander today was said about Semin, him back then. right? And I think Keith like realizes that and like is trying to drive that narrative away by making him like a more two-way player. So like I don't think Nylander's lazy defensively. I think he's just fine, but we'll see how it goes.
And him taking in the corners is not what like what he meant to do. He's more of a guy who can get in tight and score. Like I understand sometimes you just have to not stand it. Like maybe poke at the puck, dig at the puck. That's all I ask, but I was completely wrong in my like analysis of that, cause he's not that type of player. He gets to the front of the net. He's not a perimeter player. Like I don't know why people think he's a perimeter player. He's not a perimeter player at all. Like last year, you could see it. He shut people he shut up people by saying like, look, I'm on the net front. I remember on the Andre Vasilevsky goal. Remember he put it to his leg. I'm like, why aren't people talking shit now? Guys like Steve Simmons was saying he's IKEA furniture. You can't. He's what was it? IKEA furniture without the instructions, and now he's saying, oh, that's elite skill. Like, shut the fuck up. Who are you to say that he's elite skill and compare to IKEA furniture? Like, shut the fuck up. That makes no sense.
Man, I saw this on Twitter. I don't know if it's true, but apparently, like, when they're all walking back into the change room after like the overtime goal, apparently Neander was like shouting like, "Oh, put that on the front page now!" Like, of course, like saying it towards Steve Simmons, right? But like, it's just funny.
Bro, I really want someone to rip on Simmons, like either Matthews or Nylander or someone.
Bro, like they should do it the way like you remember? Did you guys see that video of Voracek in Philadelphia where he was like he completely shit on that one Flyers reporter that was just like a scumbag?
That would be perfect.
Matthews kind of did that with what was it like in the bubble with like how I don't know if I think it was Steve Simmons where Steve Simmons like released the article about like how Matthews tested positive for COVID and stuff, and Matthews was like, "Oh, you're so unprofessional. How could you do all that stuff?" Like it was hilarious. But yeah, fuck Steve
Um,
Simmons.
yeah, I think he just liked that. This is unrelated to hockey, but I was watching. I don't know if you guys know George Springer. He's hired with the Blue Jays, the richest deal in team history. He was on the Astros during the cheating scandal where they stole Stein by banging in the trash can. This guy had the audacity to ask the player if he thinks his thing is tainted, if his legacy is tainted. Like, why the fuck are you gonna ask that when the guy just signed on the Toronto Blue Jays and the richest deal in Jays history? I think it just him. He's just a piece of shit, to be honest with you.
All right, let's move on to some injury talk. Before that, I wanted to give you guys the title for the podcast. It's gonna be William Winlander, just so you guys aren't surprised. But yeah, injuries. So there's a shit ton of injuries, man. Like Matthews, Muzzin, Anderson, Campbell, Simmons, Thornton, and then you got Sandine injured down in the AHL too. Like it, it sucks, man. There's so many injuries. Like we're getting it bad. Like I don't remember the last time we got it this bad. Um, I don't know if Matthews is gonna play on Saturday. Like I know he has that wrist issue. Keith said it's been going on all season. But I don't know, like in my opinion, they've played a lot of games recently. The Leafs look exhausted, man. Like I know every single team in the league is going through this, but it's tough. I think the Leafs have one of the most games played right now in the NHL. I'm not sure, but 21 games played in the span of like what, like almost just over a month. Like these guys are tired. I think Matthews' wrist especially needs a rest. But then again, it's a very important stretch coming up against like Edmonton and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think he should be rested. I'm hoping that some of our other injury guys should come back. I know Muzzin was in practice today with a full face shield because of his fractured face. We definitely need one of Anderson or Campbell to come back. But then again, Hutchinson played good in the last game, so there's that as well. But yeah, a lot of injuries, man. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we should rest Matthews to be honest, because we can also get Tavares going. Because as you mentioned before, like Tavares and Nylander haven't played as many minutes this year as last year, and I feel like that's affecting them. Like they're not producing as much, and like they don't seem as energetic as they were last season. So I think if you rest Matthews for a couple of games, get his health back, At the same time, you can have Tavares and Nylander play more minutes and hopefully get it back to where they were playing last year.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they should have rushed Matthews. It's a long season ahead. Like there's more important stretches, but this is if not the most or one of the most important stretches of the season. Um, I think you should rest him one game and see where he goes. Like I think the rest needs to be like rested because that's one of his most deadliest weapons, his shot. So I think that should be rested. I think Campbell's coming back next game if he's ready to go. That's what Keith said today. I was reading the after practice quotes. He should be back next game. Hutchinson should be the backup. Also, I think Thorne and Mullen should be back as well, which is great news. We got three players back that are key to the team. So hopefully they can like, get back on track and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a important stretch for the Leafs because I think they have was it 2 or 3 games against Edmonton now, and yeah, so Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, their team, and I don't want Hutchinson in net because Connor McDavid is a big threat and Draisaitl is a big threat, and their whole team, they have Nugent Hopkins and stuff, and I feel yeah, we need Campbell back at least, and then Hutchinson being the backup. Uh, and I feel yeah, Matthews needs that rest and maybe one game. Monitor how his wrist is feeling. Because we need him healthy for the rest of the season, and in order to have that longevity, he needs to rest and take some time off, and maybe try to get the secondary scoring and get that spark back. Maybe Simmons comes back. I don't know when he's um, available to come back, but yeah, Leafs need some secondary scoring going. Maybe even have Galchenyuk play his debut, but we'll see when that happens.
I don't know if you guys have watched the NBA with Brooklyn, but Durant has been rested for a lot of the games, and it's allowed Harden and Irving to play a lot more minutes, and their depth to get involved as well. So I think we could do something similar as well, like rest Matthews for a couple of games, and get the secondary scoring more minutes, right? And hopefully get them more involved so that come playoff time, everyone's involved.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, take all the rest you want, man. Like, it's a very condensed season. There's never been this many games in such a short period of time. So like, I'm all for resting players. I know the NHL doesn't do it as much as the NBA. Like Denegan said, like the NBA is known for resting their stars in a lot of games. Like you see LeBron always sitting out. You know, the whole Kawhi in Toronto. It happens all across that league where you see the stars taking a lot of minutes off, but they also play a lot more minutes. They play like almost over 30 minutes a night if you're a star, but they're not sprinting the way hockey players are, right? So I'm all for it. Like rest up these guys. I even think I'm surprised they haven't rested Spezza as much as they should have. I think he's only gotten like 1 or 2 nights off. Um, yeah, but this Edmonton series, I think Harmon said it nice that Galchenyuk should get his chance now. We got the injuries, we got spots for him. I'd say even bench VC for one game because to me he's been the least impressive forward. Every other forward has looked fantastic. Mikheyev and Engvall are really hitting a stride. They're getting a lot of chemistry. Like ideally for me, if we can get a lineup of Thornton, Matthews, Marner, you get X player from trade deadline or Zach Hyman, Tavares, Nylander, and if you have that third line of Engvall, Mikheyev, and whoever else is left, like I think that's fantastic because those guys are electric out there. Also Michael Hutchinson. I know Nadim loves this guy. I know he's like one of the Nadim's like favorite goalies.
He's my favorite.
I know you're rooting for him to play all the games for the rest of the season, but
I think he should honestly in all seriousness though, like he has been pretty solid. you can't really blame him for any loss that he's had, and he was solid against the Flames in that second game. That goal wasn't really his fault. He was great in OT. He stopped a great chance before Willie went to win it there. So I've been pleasantly surprised by him. Um, yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with him. I don't think like we're in desperate need to get Freddie or Campbell back right now because it doesn't seem like either of them are coming back. So I wouldn't say it needs to like force Dubas to make a move or anything like that. Obviously, he's not going to be our starter for the rest of the season going into the playoffs, but he's been good enough to keep us in games so far, which is really all you can ask from a third string goalie.
Yeah, man. Best of luck to him. Hopefully he continues it. I think it's good also. One last note before we move on, but yeah. I think it's good for the Leafs to play behind someone who's not one of their starter or backup because it's now forcing them to be a little bit more defensively conscious. Like if they have Anderson in net, like I'm not saying they do this. I mean they do sometimes, but they can fall into the thought that we got Anderson in that like he'll back us up if we make a mistake here or there, right? But like when you got Hutchinson playing behind you, you cannot give up any high danger scoring chances because there's a better chance he'll let one in rather than Campbell or Anderson. So I think it will be better for them to learn to play in front of this guy, and then when you got Anderson and Campbell coming back, they'll get into that habit of like allowing way less high danger scoring chances against. But yeah, let's move on to some trade rumors. We got Philip Forsberg, who I'm so shocked that he's on the trade market. This guy's still a young guy. Like he's like what, like 25 or 26 years old. He's on the trade market. I heard the Leafs are interested in him, which, dude, like that would be amazing. Like having Forsberg, Nylander, and Tavares on that second line, like what an elite top six that is. On top of the Forsberg trade rumors, Jeff Skinner he got benched last game. This guy has 1 point in what, like 14 games or something like that. And yeah, I'm wondering if he gets traded too. I know he's got that massive $9 million like cap hit, but if Buffalo retains half of that and he's $4.5 million, he could be a trade target as well for the Leafs. I know you guys probably won't like that because he seems washed, but he did have some crazy seasons where he put up 37 goals, 40 goals. He was a former top 10 pick, and he's only 28. Like it's never too late for him to rejuvenate his career. But yeah, what do you guys think about those two trade targets for the Leafs? And what do you guys think about Skinner being benched? Of course.
Skinner being benched
Yeah,
is weird to me. Like, so I I think that like he's not this bad as like it makes him look as the benching makes him look like. I think part of it is like the coaching. Like Kruger obviously doesn't like him or like how he's playing for some reason, and he has decided to bench him. But like, if you're paying a guy $9 million, you can't be scratching him. Like, you just can't. If you're scratching a guy that you're paying $9 million, you have no chance of going anywhere in terms of like making it deep into the playoffs or anything because that's just too much money allocated to nothing. So I think like you have to get him back into the lineup and you have to put him in a place for him to succeed. Like he had success with Eichel that first year he was there, and for some reason he's not playing with Eichel anymore, even though they had a great season together. Like I know that they have Hall there now to play with Eichel this season, but I think like you need to give him opportunities to succeed because you're paying him that much money. He's been like a 20 plus goal scorer basically every season in the league except for like maybe one or two. So he's not bad. Like he has the talent. So I honestly think like yeah, he's not playing great. He's not playing up to $9 million, but he was never going to play up to $9 million, and the Sabres should have known that when they were trying to re-sign him. But I think you just have to, if you're like Sabres management or ownership, like you got to tell the coach that he has to play that guy and he has to make him succeed, even if he doesn't think that he wants to. Like I think you just got to put him in and you got to help him get better.
Yeah, I was gonna mention there's a lot of things that are wrong in Buffalo, and especially if Jack Eichel's like demanding, like low key demanding for a trade. I feel like there's something wrong with that franchise and I don't know if it's just management or if it's just players are not or who don't have chemistry there. But I feel like all their top players have left over the years. Like Ryan O'Reilly has left, and Wayne Simmons wasn't even performing there well. And like Jimmy VC didn't have a good year in Buffalo, and I feel like they need to I don't know, like Skinner. I feel like he is like a top six, top nine forward, and he can't like with that money, like as you said, as Nadeem said, like with that amount of money he's getting, he can't be like not playing at all. So I feel like either they need to like fire the management and like just hire new management, or they need to look at what the owner is doing. Like the NHL needs to like further investigate like what's happening with this franchise in the like for the future.
Yeah, 100% agree with you guys. He shouldn't be scratched with $9 million on the books, cause that's unacceptable. I've never seen that type of situation before. As well as Jeff Skinner being a trade candidate, I say hell no to that, cause there's no way I'm even taking him for $4.5 million, cause he's not what we need at the moment. People are saying he's bad defensively, so I'm not sure what you're gonna do with him. He's probably gonna be a third line, or not even. He's a right winger, so what are we gonna do with him? We got Nylander Marner on the right wing. He can't play on top six. He's not gonna switch to left wing. Um, yeah, he shouldn't be scratched either way, cause there's not. Yeah, it's $9 million. He shouldn't be scratching. That's all I gotta say. Also, another good trade candidate would be Eric Stahl, cause the way Kirk was playing in the top six on the left wing, besides Tavares and Nylander, he's been really good. Eric Stahl would be a good third line center. Imagine a line of McKayev, Stahl, or even Robertson, Stahl, and Hyman, or even he got so many options here. Yeah, and he could shift up and play with. Maybe he could play with Tavares and Nylander. Who knows? That's a good trade candidate as well.
I don't know, man. Like, I think Jeff Skinner's interesting. Like Dim said, like he's put up 20 goals in almost every single season he's played. If you ignore this year, he's had a great career. Like he's not a $9 million player, but for $4.5 million, and like he actually is a left wing just guard. Like he's not a right winger. He shoots left, so he fits in perfectly on that second line. Like yeah, he has his defensive issues, but like you can shelter that second line and have them explode on offense. The only thing that concerns me though is not the cap hit, but the fact that he signed for another 6 years after this year. So like even if you get him down to 4.5 mils, it $4.5 million for 6 years is still quite the commitment. So I'm not sure about that. I like the Eric Stahl idea though. That would be insane. Can you imagine telling yourself like 5 or 6 years ago that the Leafs would have Tavares, Joe Thornton, Wayne Simmons, TJ Brody, Jason Spezza, and Eric Stahl on your lineup? Like you would not believe it, but I think he would be dope for like the third line. The Philip Forsberg one though, man, like why the heck is Nashville trying to trade this guy? I don't get it. Like, are they really doing that poor? Because he's only signed for what this year and next year for $6 million. You would probably have to get them to retain at least like 2 million to fit him on the team. But man, like he's a great player. I remember like how much hype he had in that draft. I think he was in the Riley draft too, where it turns out he ended up being the best forward of that draft, even though Neil Yakupov and Galchenyuk got drafted. Yeah, like he would fit in so nicely. I wonder what it would take to get him though. I know we talked about this last episode where we talked about Taylor Hall, and we would say that they would want Liljegren. I would rather give up Liljegren for Philip Forsberg than I would for Taylor Hall, in my opinion. Like I'd be willing to give Liljegren and like a second rounder to get 2 years of Philip Forsberg. Like, heck yeah, man. Like our top six looks absolutely
But
filthy.
then who are you trading away to fit Forsberg's money?
I mean, like, well, like the thing is, like, when you go into trade deadline time, like, you accumulate cap space, right? So, like, we'll have enough
Yeah,
cap
I
space
think
this
I
year.
think this year
It's
it could work. I agree with you
it's
there,
for
but I'm
next
talking
year that
about
you gotta
next
figure
year.
it out. Yeah, that's when you gotta
Yeah,
figure
because
it out,
like
right?
you
Like,
then you have Forsberg up in there, so with his money, you're basically up against the cap already. Then you got like Anderson, Hyman, Thornton, Spezza, Simmons if they want to come back, Bogosian. Like you have all those guys that need to be signed. I don't know. Like I like Forsberg. I think he'd be great on the team, but I just don't see a way that it can work cap space wise.
That's Brandon Pridham's job. Okay, that's not our job.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. We ask
Like
and then
he's already
makes our
filled up
dreams come
the
true.
roster way more than I thought he could. So at this
Yeah,
point,
no,
anything is possible.
I agree. Like if anybody can do it, it's probably him. I think the only way that something like that works though is if you're trading away Kerfoot or if you're having like Campbell as the starter next year and you're taking away all of Anderson's 5 million. Um, and I don't think either of those ideas is would help us in like the overall. Like you add Forsberg, but you lose Kerfoot or you lose Anderson. Like I don't think the team is better after doing that.
You guys want to see how bad? You guys want to see how bad Nashville's doing? So Nashville, okay, Philip Forsberg has 17 points. Next is Roman Yossi with 11 points. Um, Granlund has 9. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a guessing game. Okay, Forsberg is first in goals with 9 goals. Who do you think is second? Just give me a quick guess. Who do you think is second on the list?
Roman Yossi.
And how many goals?
Oh, I was right. Wow. I'll
No,
say.
no. Not necessarily.
Oh,
You're
you just
right,
want me to
but
give you your full prediction? Okay. I would say like Roman Yossi at like maybe 4 goals. I don't know. That's my guess.
anyone else have a guess?
Duchesne at 3 goals.
Are you looking at this? Okay, this is good. Okay,
No,
who
I'm
else
looking
has a
at the
guess?
lines. Like there.
Okay. Who else has a guess? Anybody else?
Uh,
Nadim, you have a guess? Herman,
Victor
go
Arvidsson
ahead.
at 3. I don't know. 3 goals, Victor Arvidsson.
Okay, I'll take it. It's Michael Granlund and Cali Yarncroc with 4 goals. That's how bad the goal scoring is getting, cause it's
Holy crap,
horrible. Like
man! These guys can't put up a
bad.
goal to like to save their life right now.
Yeah, like Ben Harper's playing game. That's how bad it's getting. Ben Harper played 3 games. That's how bad it's getting over there. Yeah, it's hard for them to score goals right now. Like you have Duchesne and Johansson who game pay what? How much Duchesne game pay? $9 million a year. They can't score, and it's horrible for them. Like it's just bad. Like the goal scoring dried up, and Music City.
And I remember Ryan Johansson being like a number 1 or number 2 center. And I mean Columbus won that trade by a big time because like Seth Jones is like is like is like your number 1 defenseman, and then you have like Ryan Johansson playing on the third line now, who's like not even producing any points. So I feel like Columbus won that trade big time, and Nashville is just they're not good anymore.
Man, I'm so
What
shocked. I
about
thought
another?
Nashville would be good.
Yeah, what about another
Like
trade candidate, Victor Arvidsson? He.
Arvidsson or even like
Okay.
Granlund too. Like
Yeah,
I
Grant.
feel
Yeah,
like
there's 3 guys. There's 3 guys I would want. I would want Forsberg, Granlund, and Arvidsson, which is
y-
three
yeah,
pretty good
like
forwards.
this is the perfect team to take a player from because they're clearly not putting it together, and these are clearly players that are not performing because of themselves, but just because the whole team is not performing, right? So, like, if these guys decide they want to tank a little bit, like just for this season at least, why not swoop one of these guys out of there, get like 1 or 2 years out of them, and like really bolster your lineup?
Even a guy like Dante Fabro, he'd be a great addition to the defense in the future because he's what 24. He was one of the most touted prospect defensemen out there. I wouldn't mind him either.
I'm guessing they would move like Ryan Ellis before Fabro, because like I remember when Seth Jones was there, they had who was it? Ellis, Subban, and Fabro as the upcoming guy, and they wanted to move Seth Jones instead. So like I think they would move one of their older guys first. And in that case, like what would you guys think about like Ryan Ellis on the team?
I don't think they're trading because Ali Friedman started headlines. He said Yossi, Ellis, and Vinny are the only untouchables on the team. So we'll have to wait and see where
Wow.
that goes.
To
Well,
be
he's
honest,
part
I
of the
wouldn't want
leadership
him
team, right?
either. I feel like I
Really?
wouldn't want him either because our D core's already like set. We already have a great top four, and our bottom like two spots have like we got Dermot, Bogosian, and Letton in there. So I'm happy with our defense.
Okay, that's true. That's true, I guess.
I mean, just in case Riley walks and we can't pay him and he doesn't take a discount, I think maybe Dante Fabro would be a great addition to the team. If Riley leaves in free agency.
Bro, I don't know why, but I can never see Riley leaving. Like I can see him taking like a big ass discount to stay, but like when I see Riley, I think Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, man. Like he's been on the Leafs. Like I think he is the longest serving Leaf right now, but he is like I want him to be. I want all these guys to be like forever Leafs, right? Like I want Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Hyman, Riley. I want these guys to stay Leafs for their whole career. Like these guys are the faces of this era of the Leafs. So it'd be nice to see them all retire like within like the same time frame together. Like it would hurt me so much to see any one of those guys in a different uniform. All right, let's move on to a fun little debate we'll have here. I'm not sure how this will go, but uh, let's talk about Crosby. In your guys' opinion, if Crosby retired today, is he a top five player all time in the NHL?
Yes. That's it.
You gotta give
That's
us a reason,
that's the
buddy.
whole debate. I mean, he's I mean, there's nothing that he hasn't done really. Um, he's just been so good throughout his whole career. He's won basically everything there is to win. Um, and he's been like producing consistently. He's basically always over a point per game. And I honestly don't think this would even be a debate or even be close to a debate if he hadn't had so many injury problems in his prime. I think if he had played full seasons in those years that he was missing games so often, he'd have like another 200 or 300 points, and this wouldn't even be a conversation. And he would be like a lock for like top 4 or 5 all time. Personally, I think he's top four. Um, Gretzky, Lemieux, or and then Crosby. But I also am a bit of a Crosby fan, so I mean, I might be biased, but that's my personal opinion. And I think it's too bad that he did have those injury problems and we didn't get to see him play more of his best years. But I mean, he still had an insanely good career. And yeah, I think he's easily top five all time.
All right, time to piss off Nadim. He's not a top five player all time.
All right, let's
And
see why.
before you bite my head off, it's exactly for the reason you said. Like, it's the injuries. I think it took out too much of his career to put him in the top five, right? Like for me, top five is not just about skill. Like you can take any player who's extremely skilled and put them in the top five, right? But the thing is, like these players in the top five, they did it all, and they did it all like in crazy fashion, right? Like yeah, if Crosby had those extra years, he probably could have won one or two cups, and to be honest, he'd be top three, like no question for me. But without those injuries, like I can easily put Gretzky or and Lemieux. So that's three right away, right? And then you have Yager, Messier, and Howe. So I put Crosby in the same category as those three. You put Crosby, Yager, Messier, and Gordie Howe in that same category, and I think it's only because of Crosby's injuries. So for me, like it's very debatable to put him in or not into the like Hall of Fame and not Hall of Fame, sorry, the top five because he's like on that same level as those three guys. So you got four guys fighting for two spots, and I think because of that, like I don't have him in my top five.
I mean, that's fair. I can see the argument for that. So you're saying he would be like somewhere in between the top 5 and 7, basically.
That's what I'm saying. Like for me,
Which
he's
is
in that
like, I
four to
think that's
seven range.
reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's totally reasonable. I think there are some things that he's done that have just been like, despite the injuries, there are things that he's done that have been special that help push him into that spot for me. One of them is like winning back-to-back cups and back-to-back Conn Smythes. Like, when was the last time we saw something like that? That's insane. Um, the golden goal, scoring that in Vancouver in 2010, like that was crazy too. Those are like things that he's done in his career that we might not ever see again, and that other players at the top of that list have their own crazy special accomplishments like that. So I think that puts him at that level. But I can see an argument for him being top seven. Like, I think for me, he's top five, and I think like if you ask most people, they'd probably have him somewhere in the top 5 to 7. Um, so yeah, I mean, what do the rest of you guys think?
Yeah, I have him as number 5 on the list, but like it's super like debatable, you know, because as you said, number 5 to like 7 or 8 is pretty close. And looking at like Crosby's like career, even though he's had so many injuries, uh, he's still done so much, you know. Like I remember watching him in like '08, '09, and then '09, '10 season, where he went back to back, where he had back to back finals against the Detroit Red Wings. Like he could have had back to back cups then too, right? And like
Yeah, that's crazy. Imagine
yeah,
he had back-to-back cups twice.
yeah, like growing up, like he was like the superstar of the league, right? Like undeniably, like him against Alex Ovechkin, like considered generational players. I think, yeah, I think Crosby arguably is number 5 on my list.
Who's your top four?
I think it's like pretty much consistent with everyone, right? Gretzky, Lemieux, Orr, and Howe.
Yeah, makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
what
like
about
I've seen
you? Just
Lidstrom. I've seen
Lindstrom
Lidstrom
too.
getting thrown around. Yeah,
Hey, you're a Detroit homer though, so
Lidstrom is super underrated, honestly. Lidstrom was a great
he
player.
like I think he's probably the second
So,
best
so
like
good.
defenseman of all time, like after Bobby Orr. He was
I would
such a
have him
stud.
there, yeah. And I would have him as the best like pure defenseman. Like if you're talking about just defense, like if you want somebody on your team to just shut a team down and play defense, like I would take Lidstrom as my number one.
Yeah, cause Bobby Orr is more of that like offensive like Eric
Yeah.
Carlson type
And
of
he had
player,
like
right?
crazy offensive skill, and like that should be acknowledged for sure. But I think Lidstrom is like the best defensive defenseman all time. And he was still pretty good everywhere else too.
I think Luke Shen is one of the best defensive defensemen, but
Oh,
I'm up
Luke
for
Shen,
debate.
yeah, how can we forget about him? I'm
So
sure
yeah,
he's gonna come up in our next segment coming up here. He's definitely gonna be
oh,
mentioned a lot.
he's gonna be my number one player in the next
You're gonna take
segment.
5 Luke Shens, right?
Luke Shen at every position, and he could beat any team that you guys come up with. So
Probably could, yeah.
unless you say Martin Marincin in every position, then that's a whole different story.
I think so Riley is the longest tenured Leaf. I think Martin Marincin might be the second longest tenured Leaf,
He better retire a Leaf.
which is insane.
Like send him to like Robida Island or whatever you need to, but he cannot leave this organization. He's not allowed.
He probably knows too much. He's been around for so long.
He knows all of Brendan Pridham's tricks.
Yeah.
That's why he stays on the team. He blackmails them.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I'm gonna go expose everything to the league if you let me go. And Dubas is like, all right, one more year.
All right, just Karn and Harmon. What do you guys think about Crosby top five?
It's hard because I feel like he should be in the top 5, but it's kind of like it's on the fence because I've got Gretzky, um, Howe, Lemieux, and Orr. Not in that specific order, just in. I'm just looking at the all-time leading goal scorers here. I feel like Ray Borg gets underappreciated as well, just because I think yeah, he had the most points in out of all defensemen in history. So So I think he gets underappreciated as well too. Just a pure offensive defenseman who played with the Bruins and couldn't win the cup, but won with the Avalanche. He could be in the top five as well. Also, Steve Eiserman, Joe Sakic, all those guys could be in the top five as well. It's pretty hard because you gotta toss it up here because um, I think he should be my number five just because the golden goal. That's the sweet memory that I have. It's just a bias I have because he's been Team Canada's captain. I think he's been the captain. Yeah, he's been the captain. He's been to back cups 2 times in his career. I feel like yeah he should be top five. Just top five. I have him at five.
All right, Harmon, what are your thoughts on this?
Um, yeah, it's. I think he's contending for the fifth spot. Um, I'm not sure if I would put him at the fifth spot, but I feel like he's number six, like the number six spot of all time. I would go Gretzky, Lemieux, Howe, Yager, and I don't know. I feel like Orr and then Dennis Crosby because like Crosby, like yeah, you guys already mentioned what I was gonna say, but like his injuries, delayed his game. Like we haven't seen like that's like McDavid like now like if he gets injured and like he misses some time, like he's gonna what do you call it? Lose some time to play and like he's gonna lose some of his accolades that he could potentially break in the NHL. And I feel like Crosby missed like a chunk of time where he could have like dominated and just like had consistent seasons where he was good. So I feel like he's top six, top seven, and that's where I'd put him.
All right, thanks, Harmon. I didn't want to be the only one to not put Crosby in the top five, so I'm glad somebody else did. But yeah, like the main
Boo.
point is like he didn't have like years of his prime. But anyways, Nadim's got to go at five. So our next segment is gonna be like your top Leaf starting lineup of all time. So I'm gonna add goalies into this quickly too. So give me Nadim, you go first because you got to go. Your top three forwards, your top two defensemen, and your top goalies all time for the Leafs.
Are we allowed to use current players in this?
Yeah, like any player that's played for the Leafs, like Martin Marincin is a current player, so go for it, bro.
All right, so yeah, obviously, I mean, I'm starting with Marty Marincin here. Um, no, but I think so. For my forwards, I'd probably go with Sittler, Tucker, and Matthews. Sittler is just insane with his offensive ability, like over 1,000 points, so that's crazy. Matthews, obviously, the goal scoring, a little bit of recency bias, but I honestly think he's going to be, if he plays his whole career in Toronto, I think he's going to be like one of the best Leafs, if not the best Leaf to ever play, and like probably the most talented one. And then Tucker, I just really liked watching him play as a kid, so that's like a little bit of nostalgia in there. For defensemen, I'd go Caberlet and Boris Salming. Um, I feel like Caberlet was really underrated while he was here, but he was great as a Leaf. And Boris Salming just did like incredible things. He had like over a dozen seasons as a Leaf, and tons of penalty minutes as well. So that's always fun too. And then goalie, I'd go Johnny Bauer just because he's one of the Leafs legends. I feel like he's got to be on a Leafs all time team. So that would be my lineup.
That's a pretty good lineup, man. Like you can't go wrong with that. Like the point about Matthews, like I think no question if he continues at this pace, he'll by far be the best Leaf of all time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um, yeah, like it's no question. I'll go next. For me, I'm gonna go Matthews as well. Like no question. I think like skill wise, he already might be the best Leaf of all time. I've never seen a Leaf that played the way he did. Like to me, Matt Sundin was always the best Leaf of all time. Growing up watching him, seeing how well he played, and considering I thought Sundin was the best of all time, like Matthews takes it on a whole another level already, and he's only 23 years old. So for me, no question, number one forward is going to be Austin Matthews. Number two, I will put Matt Sundin just for the same reason I just said. Like he was one of my favorite players. Like when I was really young, growing up, and then like I always thought he's the best Leaf of all time. I remember how sad I was like when him when he went to Vancouver and stuff like that. Like it was tragic. So I think him and Matthews would be so dominant together. They're both like huge centers as well. And then my third guy, I think it's got to be like Dougie Gilmore, man. Like this guy's a legend. Like he was so good on the Leafs. Like the only thing though with him is like he's one of the guys that didn't play his whole career with the Leafs. I think he played like maybe like 5 or 6 seasons or something like that with the Leafs. But like when he did play for the Leafs, I think he had some of the best seasons of his career. Like I remember like watching highlights, like reading about him and stuff. Like I think he almost won some awards and stuff like that. So like that's my top three forward. Defensively, I gotta go Borje Salming as well. Like he's by and far the best Leafs defender of all time. I like Nadim's pick of Caberlet. He's such a like icon with the Leafs. But for the second one, I'm gonna go with good old Tim Horton. Of course, I didn't watch this guy. This guy played back when like hockey was black and white. But Tim Horton, from what I've heard and what I've read about, like he used to be a phenomenal player. Plus, he started Tim Hortons, and I love Tim Hortons coffee, so you can't go wrong with that. And goalie-wise, I'm going to go Cujo. Cujo was a beast back in the day. He had the best nickname of all time. So, yeah, that's my top five.
Some of you guys are gonna hate me for this pick, but like I would like to see this team play together. So it's not like a top five all time kind of thing, but I would go with Matthews, Sundin, and Kessel. So players from each of the different decades or different eras.
Okay, holy
when
shit.
they played.
I already love that, bro. Like, why did I not say that? That would be so much fun to watch. That's like my whole Leaf, like, fandom growing up. Like,
I know,
going through
right?
the Sundin era, going through the Kessler era, and then going through the Matthews era. But yeah, sorry for interrupting you, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would pick those three to like, because just to see them all win on the same team after seeing them struggle for so long. Because like Sundin, at least he made the playoffs. He was kind of close. But Kessel, man, Kessel was. I felt bad for the guy because like he was an amazing offensive player here, but he never had any help. And if he did have the help that Matthews is getting right now, like their team could have went far in the playoffs, right? So those would be my forwards, and then for defense, I would pick Caberlet, and then I would also pick McCabe as well because I know those two together were pretty nasty. And then for goalie, I would go with Cujo. But yeah, like these guys are more recent than like the older guys like Gilmore and Sittler and those guys. But this is a team that I would like to see play together.
Man, that would be such a fun lineup to watch play. I like your picks, Demigan. Discard, you go next.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Matthews. Just an unbelievable player. I never watched someone like that. Sundin, big power forward. Loved him as a kid. Always wanted to be on street hockey. I'm gonna go with the off one, Dave Keon. He was ranked number one all time on the Leafs top 100 list of 100 years. I think he leads the team in plus and short-handed goals. So he was one of the best defensive forwards we've ever had. He also led the team history in shots as well. So I gotta go with Dave Keon. Also I've gotta go with Borja Salming, of course, and I haven't chosen my second defenseman, so I gotta go with Cabernet on my second defenseman, and for goalie I gotta go with Johnny Bauer. He just had I just had to go with Johnny Bauer, an icon in Toronto sports. He never even when he retired, he was always with fans and stuff. Like he'll sign autographs. He was the easy guy to get an autograph from. So, And honorable mention, I gotta go George Armstrong of the late George Armstrong, the captain of the last team that won the cup.
Yo, you guys missed Cody Cece and Nikita Zaitsev, bro. How can you do them like that?
Oh shit, my bad. I completely forgot about those two, man. I want to change my list now.
Nah, but all seriousness, my top, I mean my all-time uh Leafs like so three forwards would be Sundin, obviously because he was someone that I grew up watching, and he was like he's like the Matthews of the era before, and obviously Matthews, I gotta choose him as well because he's just on another level, and I had to choose Daryl Sittler because I know he was a really big goal scorer, and he set records for the Leafs, and he was very good. And I also choose Borje Salming because obviously he was like the Leafs' top defenseman, and nobody could ever match what he did and how he contended. And he was a warrior. I think he also took a skate to face, which is obviously like he's very like strong mentally and physically. Uh, and obviously I think it's between now like I'd say Tim Horton and Morgan Riley, but yeah, I think like those two. I I'll choose Morgan Riley for now because I haven't watched Tim Horton play, but obviously he's left his legacy, and yeah, that's my uh Leafs top five.
Yeah, like that's the hard thing about these lists is like even like when we were talking about top five versus Crosby, like yeah, like I've watched like a lot of highlight videos, especially when I was younger. I used to love watching these like older players highlight videos. You read about these guys, you read articles, you watch videos about these guys, but like you haven't seen them play, right? So it's hard to do. So because of that, guys, I'm completely changing my list. All right, are you guys ready? All right.
Oh, wait, 1 second, Harmer. Who's your goalie? You forgot the goalie.
Oh, goalie. I'd have to go with Johnny Bauer. Like, even though I didn't watch him play, but I've seen highlights, and he's just been like like there's like no match, and he just like he's like the one of those players who's really great off the ice and on the ice, and yeah, I feel like he's obviously the best goalie the Leafs ever had.
All right, you guys are not ready for my revamped and updated list. All right. Forward core, number one center, Tim Connolly. All right, this guy came into Toronto, had the highest expectations. He was phenomenal. He was meant to be our number one center. He's number one there. We got Tyler Biggs. Brian Burke's legacy was left in with Tyler Biggs. All right, this guy was supposed to be an all-star, big-bodied winger, power forward. On the other wing, we got David Clarkson. All right, this guy was a monster before he came to the Leafs. Signed a massive contract. He was a beast out there. Like, how can you stop that forward line? Defensively, we got Luke Shen, man. Like, this guy got thrown into the NHL when he was 17, 18 years old. Projected to be the next big shutdown defenseman of the league. Got Marty Marincin right beside him. How are you gonna get the puck past Luke Shen and Marty Marincin? You tell me that. And then doesn't matter because even if you do, you got Vesa Toskala backing them up as a goalie. Like, look at that lineup. Like, no other team can compete with that top five, man.
Bro, you just brought back so many bad memories. Like as soon as you mentioned Toskala, I remembered that goal from like the other side of the rink. I don't know if you remember that.
Bro, it was like literally before like the half red, like the red line before
Yeah,
halfway,
right?
bro.
Oh my god, that was brutal. And then Tyler Biggs. Everyone had high hopes for that guy.
Bro,
And
Tim
then
Connolly. Do you remember like
yeah,
when was it Burke that signed him out of Buffalo and like he was supposed to play with like Joffrey Lupul and Phil Kessel on the top line, and
and
this
we
guy
were
came and
naive enough.
completely
Yeah,
shat an egg, bro. Like he didn't do
we were
shit
naive
here.
enough to believe that he was gonna be a good player.
Bro, we
You
believed
guys,
anything back in those days, man.
Yeah,
you, you, you guys forgot about Mike Commissaric and Jeff Finger too, yo. Those were like the biggest signing that
Bro,
the GM made back then.
don't forget about Jesse Blacker, Stuart Percy. Oh man, so many prospects back in the day.
Bro,
Not
hold up.
Finn.
You're forgetting about one guy, yo, Jared Cowan, yo.
Oh shit, how could I forget? Oh man. Lot of good history with the Leafs, a lot of bad history. But like overall, it's like, to be honest, like the Leafs we have now, especially Marner and Matthews, like if we were to discuss the same topic, there's a conversation for Marner to be on that list over someone like possibly even like Dougie Gilmore or Daryl Sittler or even Sundin. Like Marner right now is like a top 5 point scorer in the league. If these guys win a couple cups together, you're looking at like a whole new era of Leaf greats. Like you know how they had that like top 100 Leafs of all time, and I feel like the only Leafs that were currently on the roster that made it there were like Phil Kessel, Dion Phaneuf, maybe JVR. If you redo that list today, you got Nylander, Riley, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, even Anderson that are gonna make it on that list. So like it's a really bright future we got in this organization. But on that note, it's been almost an hour and a half on this podcast, so we should probably wrap it up. It's gonna be a good series against Edmonton coming up. We'll probably come back to you again next Friday. It looks like it's getting the regular date. So thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to follow us on everywhere, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like our videos, comment what you guys think. If you guys comment, we'll shout you out. We shouted out that one guy, sorry, I forgot your name, but yeah. Make sure wherever you guys listen to the podcast, if it's not YouTube, if it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, like it, subscribe it, leave a comment, leave a review. Thank you guys for listening. See you guys next time.